All right. Thank you, Marshall. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the March 15th, 2023 CALPADS Q A. My name is Paul Higgins. I'm a data analyst working at CSIS supporting CALPADS. And with that, let's just jump into announcements. And I think that everybody is happy to see Fall 2 is in the rearview mirror, heading into the past. Thank God. And as we get started in our waiting game for end of year, the trainers, specifically Kyron, did update the end of year roadmap and checklist in the user manual. So if you wanted to familiarize yourself with what's coming up, the end of year reporting roadmap in the user manual is available, and Alex is showing it to you on screen right now, all the shortcuts to get to it. And it discusses the calendar, what's changed, what you need to be putting in, any communication relevant, just anything you need to know about fall or end of year is there right now. So I would suggest that you take a real quick look at that, spend a little bit of time looking at it, making sure you understand what's expected. And if you don't, go ahead and put a service desk ticket in it and let us know, or come to a Q&A and let us know. Angela, what's coming up?
We did not have a deployment yesterday, a variety of reasons. But anyway, I think it's pushed out till next Tuesday. Is that what I heard, Martha? Not going to do it tomorrow.
I don't think they've decided on that. It may happen tomorrow.
Okay.
It's likely it will.
And I don't think there's anything urgent in there that we're waiting on. So
correct.
What else? Anything else going on?
No.
Deep sighs of relief here at CSIS, probably out there in the field as well.
All right, thank you for that. Unless anybody has anything else, Martha, analysts, trainers, I will just jump into the chat box and start hitting the Q1s. All right, so we're going to start out with Sean at 3 o'clock. Q1, any updates on when the data discrepancy interface will be made available?
I would say maybe sometime in April that we want to do a user acceptance first, and that's going to start happening in the next couple of weeks. So we'll need a few weeks of UAT. Communicate for sure when it's ready.
And it'll be sooner rather than later. It's not like we're putting it off till next year or something.
Right.
All right. Moving on to Melissa at 3 o'clock. We have a student in Tom's that has the following information. CalPAD special education, yes. Special education for testing, no. The student needs to take the CAA, but I cannot change the test assignment because the special education for testing field is set to no. The SPED person uploaded the SPED and SSRV data to CalPADS last Friday. Testing starts Monday. Any ideas why this is happening? Good.
So typically this happens when the student has already started some sort of testing. At the time they began the testing, they didn't have an active special education record posted in CalPADS. So even though somebody has uploaded the record in CalPADS, the student had started testing before that was in there. And so you need to talk to the TOMS team, because what I believe you might have to do is do a reset, submit a stairs incident and submit a reset. And then after that, CalPADS will ingest the correct information, SPED information about the student, and then you can set the student to the alternate assessments in TOM.
Thank you, Brandy. I learned something new today.
No problem.
Moving on to Rebecca at 3 o'clock. Q1, or not a Q1, but a shout out to Nate and Alex for doing such a great job at the Aries Cup. So that they were all there last week, and I understand that Nate and Alex had great success. Milad at 3 o'clock, Q1. Since students cannot be enrolled in 2 school districts simultaneously when the student is in PPPSS and is from out of the district, their assessment and service plans are still through the district of residence. Do we keep them so the district of residence completes the IEP, or does the district of residence code E06?
I believe.
So I'm not familiar with PPPSS, those acronyms and numbers.
If it's, is it parentally placed in private school? So if it's parentally placed in private school, that's what I assume that PPS code is. Then it should be at the district where the private school is located.
Right. So we did give a PowerPoint now about a year ago, I think, or maybe it was, I can't remember. It was a while back where we kind of went over the students parentally placed in private schools. So as Joe said, it's the district where the private school is located is required to conduct the assessment. And although the parents may request that the district of residence also evaluate the student, the difference is the only time you're going to report that particular record, if you're the district of residence and you conduct an assessment at the request of the parent, the only time you're going to upload that to CALPADS is if the parent accepts the offer of faith. Otherwise, the district where the private school is located would submit up the initial evaluation as well as the ISP and the associated service.
That is correct. I agree with what you said, Brandy. Specifically, if the district where the private school is actually has an ISP, which is the equitable services provision equivalent of the IEP, then they're the ones submitting the ISP where the private school is actually located.
And Alex is showing you a specific PowerPoint. Alex, can you possibly post the link to that in the chat?
I don't remember where I got this from. Try to see if I can just upload it here from my documents.
You're becoming a digital hoarder locally. All right. Moving on. We're going down to Eugenie at 3:02 Q1. An LEA had a child's annual IEP due today, but they had to postpone and reschedule because the administrator is unavailable to attend at the last minute. The provider indicated it on notes. Does the LEA fill out the parent consent page still, or is the excusal form only needed to be documented and signed?
Do you know the answer to that?
I mean, wouldn't that be more of a local policy procedure that should be consistent? I would defer back to your local policy in terms of like how to go about your going through the IEP process and obviously your SED system as well.
The meeting was due today and then they couldn't make it. There's some sort of delay, right?
Yeah, for CALPADS reporting requirements, that would be a acceptable delay. They could submit a delay. So on how to go about it within their SEDs and consistent with their policy procedures, obviously internal with their LEA, obviously.
Okay. Going down to 303, Kelly Winchester Q1. Our middle school needs to create a new section for an office assistant per a settlement agreement. We've had these sections before, but this would be a new course in the school year just for the third trimester. I'm not worried about the setup, but will there be any EOI or assignment monitoring ramifications with it having it start so late in the year?
It won't be part of assignment monitoring because that's fall 2 passed. Just about course completion for grades 9 through 12. I don't think it has any.
All right. Good news for that. Richard 305 Q on creating a new SIMP record. Can we clone the preceding one? Often students have later start date than we need, and we need to go through gymnastics to correct things to make the limitations placed upon us regarding the primary key fields.
You got to put in a new start date. In your local system, you have all of the various fields populated. So if you want to populate those fields based on what's already in CALPADS, that's your choice. I don't know where you get the demographic data for the SIMP record for the student.
Is the issue, Martha, the fact that they're changing the, and therefore then they have a that's outside of that?
Potentially, but that's not how I'm reading his question. It was just about cloning. So I don't know, Brandy. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. So Richard, if you want to expound on your question, because not sure if we're answering you appropriately.
All right. Rebecca 305. Do you know when data for students who graduate with an exemption per SB 532 will be collected via CALPADS, or if it will be collected via CALPADS?
Yes, we're talking about it right now. Yes, so the answer is yes, Rebecca, although it very likely will not be collected until the 23-24 academic year. And what exactly that looks like yet, are still working on it.
Alrighty. Nancy, when a student has an out-of-school suspension and it was one period of the first day and then 2 full days, I've been told that the attendance data would be 2.1 days, or the attendance days would be 2.1 days. It seems to go up correctly for the SIRS, but not for the STAS. Why is that?
Daily attendance? We don't look to see what part of the day was. Either they were present that day or they weren't.
If I recall correctly, there is no cross validation between the STAS and the discipline data. You know, it's looking for, okay, you say that they had an out-of-school suspension. Did you account for an out-of-school suspension? It's not looking for exactly 2.1 days. It's just looking for a reference to out-of-school suspensions.
Right.
And then looks like Alex is looking in the CFS, the CFS for formats.
I think the issue here, Nancy, is that we're counting whether or not a student was there or not. And in your specific student information system, they may count any portion attended as a day of attendance, which means that on that first day when they were suspended for one period, that's actually being counted as a day of attendance in the stats, very likely. And so it's probably showing up as 2 days in out of school suspension in the stats rather than 2.1, because your SIS is counting any portion of the day as a day attended.
Okay. Wendy, congratulating Nate and Alex on their last week. Melissa, 306, follow up to Q1. CASP testing starts on Monday. Could this be if the student started or took the summative ELPAC? And I think that's what we had actually come to. Yeah.
That's actually a really good observation. So yeah, CASP testing starts Monday, but if the student, remember that when the student takes the California alternate assessments, they have to take the alternate assessments for everything. They have to just designate alternate assessments. And so in order to do that, you have to be a student with disabilities. So if their record was not posted in CALPADS and they started taking the summative ELPAC without identifying alternate assessments, that's why that's happening. That's why it's showing up as not SPED for testing, but SPED in CALPADS. So very likely if they started the summative ELPAC, that's the issue.
Tammy, 307, Q1. I understand the SPED report 16.x may be released early. Any information would be helpful.
Interesting question, Tammy. You can answer that a lot of different ways. I think we need to be more specific. EOI for snapshot reports until we turn on EOI, which happens the beginning of May. There's the monitoring report that you can run anytime. And then there's the SPED redesign where we're working on new 16.x reports. And that won't happen until, we turn on the new redesign, which is going to be in the fall, September timeframe. So I don't know which one of those three helps answer your question.
All right, moving down to Colleen Thomas had a 302 question, and it looks like she and Kyron have been talking, so pushed out. The question is, Q1, is it true that sending an E155 exit now for the end of the school year will lock students out of testing and TOMS? If so, is that based on the exit date or just the E155 code? Our SIS vendor set up a work, but I don't remember this being a thing in the past. And basically, the answer is yes, any exit will lock that student out of TOMS testing because it's looking for active students, and it is not just based on the date. So even if you future dated that exit, if they're exited, they're not going to be tested. So don't exit your students during testing.
I didn't think they could even send this early.
I think it's 30 or 45 days up in advance. So
Implementation was like, yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't even start sending them up till May.
Maybe I misunderstood.
I mean, maybe you haven't tried, if you've tried to.
You know what it is, Brandy? I think you can't have it with a date earlier than May.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But you can send it up, as what Paul said.
Here it goes. Alex just pulled it up on screen. So the if exit code equals E155 or E156, then the enrollment exit date must be between March 31st and August 15th.
Date has to be at least March 31.
Brandy, there's other places in the system where we treat E155 as an active enrollment. Do you know why the TOMS extract doesn't do that?
It's direct cert. And with testing, it really complicates things because even if they go somewhere else and their test registration record is still at the old LEA, it just causes issues. And so when they receive an exit code E155, even though they're expecting the student to return, not until they submit a subsequent enrollment that says affirmatively there. I think for the interim assessments, they allow E155 to test, but I don't believe that they create the test registration records until positive enrollment has been received for the new admin year.
Got it.
Moving on to 30. Deborah, Q1, is there a known issue on troubleshooting page shows an active defect 6465, but that issue is not on the known issues list. As of yesterday, I was still getting that error on records that were not no-shows. Should I post a ticket to the help desk?
Yeah, so Kyron and I are working on that, Deborah. We found what you're talking about, so that was a mistake. It should not be on the error at all because it's a closed problem. So we'll get that cleaned up on the 5 o'clock revision of the known issues. Of the user manual update. So yes, please put in the ticket, include the job ID if you could, and we'll help you troubleshoot that.
Thank you, Angela. Angelica, 311 Q1. We have a 10th grader that has been with us since the IFSP world and has been marked as no for Hispanic ethnicity and white as race. Mom just stated at the plan review IEP today that he is Hispanic and wants that checked as yes. Can we change that at the plan review?
So remember that all of the information in CALPADS with respect to a student's race ethnicity is actually coming from the student information system. And even though it is documented in the special education system, best practice would be to check with your SIS administrator, follow your appropriate procedure for changing a student's record, their race ethnicity within the SIS, and then also document that change in the SPED system if you don't already have some sort of integration with the student information system. But that's best practice.
.312 posted the for students with disabilities in private schools presentation, so you can download that if you want it. 314, Richard, the issue with SIMF cloning is it drops many fields. If I try to add one more, parent ed and such, it's not enjoyable having to open 2 screens to copy everything. Just clone with a new effective date. It would save much time.
You don't have to have when a student comes to you from another district, you don't have to add a new SIMF record, right? They can just adopt the existing one as long as nothing's changed.
Not even adopt, it's just you don't have to. Yeah.
Right. So technically a kid could have one SIMF record all through K-12 career, even if they bounced around all over the state. If nothing changed, then it would just be that one record.
Don't they have to have a SIMF LEA? Student comes to you, you have to have a SIMF record at your LEA for them. That's why you get a Cert 4.
Nope. As long as they're
right.
As long as it's populated on the existing record.
Way back in the day, we had to put in a record every year for fall 1. And that was accounting for everything from ethnicity to language to address. And yeah.
Because the grade level was in the SIMF originally.
Yeah.
But once that came out of that record, it went back to just being a static, not like a SELA record. I don't know, Richard, if that helps you. If not, put something else in the chat and we'll see if we can drill down a little deeper with you.
All right. And at 318, we have Alex. Question 1, trying to resolve a CCE anomaly. A student entered our alt-ed school on 3/6. However, the student's previous LEA says they suspended the student until 3/8. Does that mean I need to change the date of the student entered my LEA to 3/9, even though he was physically in our classroom for a few days already? Thanks in advance. And Kyron has already addressed this and said, nope, they need to exit theirs on 3.5 per SS enrollment procedures document. So call that one done. Hammy 320, thank you. I'm referring to the EOY4 SPED reports. I'm trying to remember.
So they won't be ready to return on the snapshots. The EOY reports is when EOY starts running.
Gotcha. All right, 322, Sean, I have a mid, not on report, that is totally different student. I've reached out to the other LEA twice. Yes, we would like to resolve this ourselves first. However, since we are nearing testing, how long should I wait to submit a ticket to CDE?
I mean, I would just send it in. You don't want to delay any testing, and then if we need to reach out to them, we can.
Let us know who you've contacted and when in the ticket.
Going down to 24, Q1. Now, hello?
This is Richard Adams. May I please address the SINT? I just don't seem to be getting through. The problem is the first time a student is enrolled in California, we have their first enrollment and we have their first demographic records. You cannot delete the first records if they're the only records. And as an example, we just had 2 children come here from the Ukraine. And we thought they were going to join on the 13th, and instead their enrollment is going to be down the road April 3rd. And they will not actually be in the school that we thought they were going to be in. They're going to be in a different school. It can take me up to 20 minutes to try to replicate all the data that I need to, because we basically have to work around the fact that you can't delete a record. So we have to put in the records that we need, and then we can go back and delete the records that are not necessary anymore, or they're in error. So the problem is that when I try to add a SINF record, it will bring in the student's name and I think their school and a couple of things in the top of the form. But parent ed level, parent name, address, all that sort of stuff just blanks right out. I think there's a few other items above that where it blanks them out. So what I have to do is I have to have 2 screens open and basically transcribe everything from one to the other, and then put in the new effective date and the new school. If there was a way that they could develop a tool within these screens where we can clone something and say, I want to actually have it as effective on this date and for this school, that would save all of us at the LEAs a huge amount of time, because the key field thing has created a tremendous limitation on our ability to go in and make what used to be very simple changes. Thank you.
Certainly understood now better. Okay, thank you, Richard. So you're trying to sort out the effective date, and with the file submission redesign, we don't let you change that anymore. And so you're right, it doesn't pull all of the information in. I don't know why it couldn't. So I can drill down on that and see if I can get an answer. Because like you said, it pulls some of them, not all. I have experienced that myself.
Yeah, I don't think it did in the previous incarnation either. A lot of these are the same. It just changed some of the functionality on the back end and rearranged some things in the database.
Right. So if you could just change that effective date, which is what I would really like it to do.
Effective date, change the school. Everybody's going to love you. We're going to send you Valentine's Day.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but certainly would be nice. But yeah, thank you, Richard. I got you now. So I will investigate for you.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, let's see where we're at. Larney, 324, Q1. Now the Fall 2 submission is closed. When do we expect the exceptions to be released? Are CALPADS LEA admins notified when it's released, or do we just have to check in with the county office? Will we be getting the exceptions CALPADS error again with more elaborate information as to what caused the error?
I believe that the commission's monitoring schedule begins the first week in August. So it runs from August through November. So that's when you will start getting exceptions for the 22-23 academic year. In answer to your question about whether or not it'll provide more elaborate information as to what caused the error. So Larnie, we went through some exercises with some certain county offices that allows you to kind of where we kind of showed examples of how to use those exception reports and what specifically to focus on when you're trying to figure out what the error was. But again, we only offered it in specific counties where they had requested that training. So, but if you'd like more information, Arnie, I'd be happy to talk with you about it, or you can actually, I don't know if we've recorded any of the other sessions later on, but anyway, just send me an email and we can talk about it.
A while back, there was a flash we did, but is that outdated? So it's not as helpful on misassignments and how to correct them?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I don't think it has all of. Yeah, because we've gone through the process of actually taking a look at those exception reports that get generated. And, I've learned a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Probably, yeah. And Alex was there. She kind of understands, what the process that we were going through with some of these LEAs and trying to figure it out.
All right. Moving on. 324 Q1 for end of year 1. Are all grades 7 through 12 completed courses required or just the courses that count towards high school graduation? I believe it's all courses except those that have no academic value. So, the lunch period, the homeroom, you don't have to report those, but anything they're taking for credit has to be reported.
Courses. So if your grades 7 and 8 are still kind of self-contained, you don't report those. So grades 7 and 8 are permitted, optional.
All right. Karina, 325 Q1, will there be a county-wide report available to COEs listing all LEAs certification status during each reporting window? This would be valuable to us to be able to initiate more intensive support, especially for those districts who do not reach out to us at the COE until days before the deadline. I know I have this access via SELPA for fall 1 and end of year, but it would be really helpful for fall 2 as well.
We're working on it, Karina. We've been, working on a prototype and we're very close to getting it published. So hopefully for EOY, we'll have something that we can clone and use for all the other submissions. And they'll publish it on CDE's website daily, I think. So it's close. We know how important that is, and we appreciate the county offices helping us. So thank you.
Going down to 332, Maribel. Q1, we are that provides early start services for infants. Are we required to report all services listed on the IFSP regardless of who the provider is? Our regional center contracts different vendors to provide services for our students. Just wondering if we should only be reporting services that the COE provides. Thank you.
I believe it's all services that are prescribed in the IFSP, correct, Joe?
That is correct, Randy.
All right, there we go. All right, with that, I'm going to jump back up to 311 for Nancy's Q2. Q2 311 from Nancy regarding cohorts for DAS. If the student is repeating senior, would they still show in the cohort? In the original cohort, yes, all students are reported in their initial cohort, regardless of, unless they're one of the reserved exit categories where they're removed from the cohort, but everybody else gets reported at the end of their 4-year window.
I can't see the question.
The question is regarding cohorts for DAS. If the student is repeating their senior, is a repeating senior, would they still show in the cohort?
Yes. So remember that DAS is a 1-year grad rate. So as long as they are a 12th grader, they remain in the denominator and the numerator only if they graduate within that year. So they're not in the DAS rate just once. They're in the DAS rate as long as they're enrolled in that school as a 12th grader.
Okie doke. Well, we have 22 minutes left and I've reached the bottom. Oh, wait, Ed came up with a Q2. Never mind. Ed at 338 Q2, end of year 1. What is the CDE purpose use case for collecting course completion information for courses that do not count towards high school graduation? MS credits are not earned in the same sense that middle school credits are not earned in the same sense that high school credits are. For the past 3+ years, we have not reported the middle school courses that do not earn high school credits, and no one has ever said anything about it.
It's not required for 8th grade. It is required for 9-12, but not for 7th and 8th grade.
Alex has the FAQ up.
There you go. Simple answer right up front. Are LEAs required to submit course completion records for self-contained courses in grades 7 and 8? No. Like that. And a follow-up, of course. All right. Sherry, 338 Q1. Will CDE make student with disability enrollment files available to SELPAs and SPED staff at LEAs? This would be super helpful. Thanks.
Are you talking about identifying students who are disabilities when they enroll? Is that what you're referring to, or?
I bet it's the SSID extract.
So, to make it so that it's a local decision, right?
She did just weigh in at 339 saying SSI extracts so we can compare counts.
So the problem has been you need SENR edit, and the data coordinators are hesitant to give other people SENR edit to view that. And so I think it's in our queue to talk about if we can change that SSID extract to have just the SENR view instead of edit. So we're discussing it, but it hasn't changed yet. So right now, the only way you can get SSID extracts is with the SENR edit. And if the LEA admin doesn't give you that role, then you're not able to access the file unless you ask for it.
Got it.
Ed made a comment at 339. Lou, I'm coming back to you. Ed made a comment saying we may want to change the end of year roadmap that says 7 through 12 are required. So
We'll do that.
Lou at 339 Q1, we have a student that has been eligible for a 504 since 8/14/2020. During this year's meeting, the 504 was amended. Would we continue to report the original date the student was eligible for the 504 or the amended date?
Bottom line is, we use this particular data element for one, and that is to determine whether or not they're on a 504 accommodation at the time of testing. So we don't validate those start dates if they have continuously been eligible for the 504 and that hasn't changed. Because remember, we're not collecting the components of the 504, just the fact the student has been on a 504 accommodation plan. So if it's remained continuous, you do not have to change that. It's not required. So
All righty. Looks like Kyron is updating the end of year roadmap now. Lydia at 342 Q1. Is there training scheduled for end of year during the quarterly update meetings in March? Here.
end of year training. So you guys have end of year training?
Yeah, I was talking and I was on mute. We usually don't start our training for end of year until the middle of April, a couple of weeks before the snapshots start running. So we'll put out the schedule sometime in April then. But if you really wanted to get started, again, this EOI isn't changing a whole lot from last year. So you could use last year's recordings if you need a refresher on the EOI submissions. Population is pretty much the same, the regular reporting and certification, the reports. I think there's an added filter to 14.1, and that's the biggest change that we've done.
And on screen, Alex is actually showing you the YouTube end of year training channels and options there.
So the live trainings will begin sometime in middle to end of April.
All righty. Eric, 342. Can you please provide clarification on how to properly enroll students in pre-K that are enrolled for services? For example, a student is enrolled on 2/1/23 and I got an SSID. The student is tested on 2/27/2023 and did not qualify for services. They have a meeting with the parents on 3/10. Normally, I did a one-day enrollment with an N470 exit code, so entry date 2/1, exit date 2/2, but this would create issues because the meeting date in SACE is not until 3/10.
So the 310 meeting, the student's initial evaluation of 227. I'm not sure why the SPED record would have a meeting date of 310. The SPED meeting date should be 227, which represents the date that the evaluation occurred, right, Joe?
Sorry. Yeah, I do agree with you, Brent. There's probably some why it's not aligned. There's a question, but for the center record though, would that should that obviously be reflective of whatever is on the meeting date? So if it's supposed to be 227, then that should coincide with the center record, and the meeting date should be at 227, correct?
Well, yeah, Yes, he could. It's sort of inconsequential. They created the enrollment on 2 probably because that's the parent consent date, which is what we told them. And so bottom line is he can still no-show the enrollment and using that. And you don't even need to create a 1-day enrollment. You could actually make the exit date the same day or 1 day prior to the enrollment date to no-show that enrollment because they didn't qualify. But definitely the one thing that you should understand is that the district's requirement is to assess the student within 30 days of, or excuse me, within 60 days of parent consent. So once that assessment has occurred, the date of that assessment is, and in this case it's 2/27, is the date that should go up on that record. If you had a continuance and you met with the parent subsequently on 3/10, that would not that's sort of a continuance of the initial evaluation, which began on 2/27. So the only SPED record you would need is that 2/27 record.
That's actually a good point there, Brandy, that most likely that says record date there that is 3/10 was a subsequent continuation, which for our CALPADS reporting guidance, you should be the first day when the initial evaluation was actually held.
Ready. 342, Carol put a Q1 in, and Angela has addressed it already, so we'll just hit that real quick. Q1, the passage shown says 7th and 8th grade self-contained classes don't need an SCSC record. Does that mean that other 7th and 8th grade non-self-contained classes do need an SCSC, algebra, etc.? And Angela's response says, it says you can report departmentalized courses for grades 7 and 8, but it is not required. And then also posts the link to that document or that.
I did think of an exception though. I think for if you had any CTE courses for 7th and 8th graders, you probably would want to report those.
Although they don't count though.
They don't?
No.
Does it use it?
Dashboard? Nope. They don't count, unfortunately.
All right. Eric at 347 continuing as Q1. Yes, you are right. Power School will take 1 day off the exit date, so I should change the enrollment entry date to 2/27/23.
You can, if you would like. You know, again, initially, I believe you probably created that enrollment start date based on the parent consent date for assessment, which is appropriate, right? He told you to do that. But you could change it to 2/27/23. I think what's more important is the date of the meeting record.
348, Larney. Can we send a request an SSI and SENR for a SPED private school student under the district level while they're being assessed? That is SENR under the district level, SPED record plan type equal 300. Once assessment is complete, if declined, a new record with the plan type equal 900, still under the district level record. If the plan was accepted, SENR is moved to the private school group code with the plan type 100 and up for an IEP or 200 IEP SP. Is that okay?
Yes. If they move to schools, they can't have an IEP. They have to be on.
Yes, I agree with you, Randy, and I agree with you, Larnie, about that guidance. That's actually the prescribed guidance that we're using.
Can I jump in? The only thing that I would just is that if the enrollment at the district level, once they are approved for the ISP and you move them over to the private school, if that enrollment at the district level is not no-showed, CALPADS is going to expect a status record at the end, right? Depending on the grade level, it might expect a SELA record or courses. So that would be my only caution.
In that regard, would that be a exit to the district with the T180, right? Because like if the student accepts the offer, I mean the ISP portion, which is the equitable services, then the student would have a corresponding subsequent 02 school center record rather, right? And the original district level enrollment should have an exit of a T180.
But Joe, if they do that, then it requires the student was actually never enrolled in the district. That's the problem. Is that, you know, in this case, let's just say subsequently they decline the ISP, right? They decline it. Or even if they accepted the ISP, the student actually was never enrolled in the district. And so that primary enrollment at the district level requires that you give that attendance information, right? And there is no attendance.
Right. Would that be an N470 then?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem.
All right, moving on. Rebecca has a comment regarding end of year 1 for 7th and 8th graders. I was told that end of year 1 is optional for our district since we are pre-K through 8. Some 7th and 8th graders are self-contained, but the majority of our middle schools are departmentalized. I have not submitted the EOI for the past couple of years on the 1.0 expected schools information report, it states P, which is permitted but not required, for end of year 1 course completion column for all of our middle schools.
Again, it is permitted. It's not required. There was some talk, and this may have been what Angela was referring to. There was some talk by the state board a couple of years ago to count introductory CTE courses that were taken at the middle school level towards their CTE completion requirements, but they never made a decision to do that. So really, currently that would be the only use of the data that you're submitting in the end of year course completion for 7th and 8th grade. Really, they're only looking for dashboard purposes and for every other state reporting purpose. Only looking at courses 12. So you're okay, Rebecca.
Mahia 351 Q1. There are some SPED preschoolers and private schoolers who we have set their enrollment exit date to be the date that they were found DNQ, instead of setting it to 1 day before the enrollment start date. Will this cause issues? Shouldn't. Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's a no-show and it's either on the same day as the enrollment start date or 1 day prior, you're fine. Eric 352 Q2. Next year, we are going to have dual immersion classes, or a dual immersion class. The students will receive the course material in Mandarin in the morning. Then the students will receive the course material in English. Do I have to have 2 different sections so we do not have a teacher misalignment? Where can I get more information about properly reporting dual immersion courses and teachers?
So Eric, I think I would need to know, are there 2 separate teachers teaching? I'm assuming teachers teaching.
Yeah, posted at the bottom, he said at 355, 2 different teachers for the dual immersion learning course.
So you only want to report the teacher providing the instruction in Mandarin, as associated with a language of instruction of Mandarin for that particular course. Okay, so what it may look like is 2 different sections, 2 separate teachers, same students.
$355, Kyron posted a what classes should be reported for segment there. So discusses what should and shouldn't be submitted end of year 1. Brandy or Rebecca talking to Brandy at 355. Eric's comment. 351 Mejia again. There's some, oh, wait a minute. We already did that one. Sorry. Eric, thanks everybody. Thank you. And Rebecca just thanked Kyron for the additional information there. And with that, we are at the bottom of the list again, and we have 3 minutes remaining. So if there's nothing else, I'll give you 3 minutes of your life back. Never mind, Nancy of Q1, forgive me if you already said this, but if a pre-K student qualifies for SPED and is receiving services, do LEAs need to upload the SPED and SSRV? No. No. And with that, I thank you all for coming today. I learned something new every time. This time I happened to learn something even before we got started. So a great day today. We're going to let you all go. And if you have a question between now and the next Q&A, please open a CALPADS service desk ticket so we can get back to you as quickly as we can. And please enjoy your downtime before end of year starts. Review that roadmap and do as much prep work as you can, and hopefully it will go smoothly. With that, you have a great week, and I will talk to y'all later.